What up, man? I miss your milkman, Mr. Milk Tasty, coming back at you with another episode. And on today's episode, splashing the fishbowl with this shit show. It be going down, man. Some people be hating on your pins, and sometimes the damn fifth wheel just get out on you, man. It just don't want to do what it's supposed to do. I don't know what happened right here. What's the truth? I just know I stopped right here because I needed to stop for a minute, and I looked up and I was like, oh wow. So yeah, that happened. Other than that, shit show that happened. What do you guys got going on? Me, I'm cooling, bowling, chilling, chilling. So it's taking these 24 minutes forever, bro. Goodness gracious. I gotta get in the parking spot before they start bringing tow trucks and all this other shit out. Let me move, cause security bringing they creeping their ass back around. Sucker. Wanna drop that bit. Drop that bit. Goodness gracious, good googly moogly. Y'all seen that thumbnail? The man trailer that dropped in the middle of the parking lot. Good googly moogly. I thought I had a bad morning. I had a blowout, but I was able to drive to the shop. Get there, they say, oh, you need 2 tires. I was like, hey, thank God we made it. Cause boy, that being broke down, waiting on the wrecker, you might be waiting 3 hours before they get there. Tree. And the crazy thing about my ordeal, I went to sign in, and when I signed in, they told me before I walked out the office, they told me what bay to go to. And if you're a trucker, then you know how that go. Like, you rarely walk into any mechanic shop, even if they ain't doing nothing, and they tell you go get on the dock, though. I mean, pull on the bay. They gonna make you wait for no reason. But NPC, I appreciate you subscribing. D Nice, what's happening? Kevin, what's up? Who that is said crackhead muscles. Listen here. Did you come in here trolling or did you hit the like button first? What's my vaccination status? We don't put them cocktails in us, man. What you talking about? They don't even know what that stuff is. And then they kill you with it and say you can't sue them for it. Yeah, we don't deal in them cocktails. Stuff they creating in under a year. They ain't had time to research it. You heard me? They be like, oh, it's mandatory. How is mandatory and it could kill us? And we can't sue y'all. That shouldn't be mandatory. I don't think that should be mandatory. If you have any defect from this vaccination, there's no repercussion to the people that made the vaccination. That is not proper etiquette. Okay? I don't think that's proper. Nah, that ain't right. That ain't right. If they make a messed up drug, they should have to pay for that. Boy got a whole separate court, vaccination court. They ain't lost a case since it's been created. Now what that tell you? They got their own court and they ain't never lost a case since the court system been created. Now what that tell you? That's as corrupt as corrupt could get right there. Come up with vaccinations, tell people they gotta get them, and then make it illegal if they don't get them. Well, I don't think it's illegal if you don't get them, but yeah, I don't think there's no repercussion for not getting them. It shouldn't be. But if something happened to you, you ain't gonna get no compensation. Niggas don't lose their medical license or nothing. All the batteries want to tap out. Hold on. You probably need charging too. Come here, buddy. Get all you guys wired up. Get you wired up and fired up. We know what we doing here. We know what we doing. We waiting for a minute though. Waiting for some shit to kick in.
The big kids headed to the local swimming pool to try and get their last dips in. It was the last weekend the pool would be open before they closed it for the fall. The younger kids who couldn't travel by themselves had to find more practical ways to keep cool. One of the kids borrowed a wrench from the maintenance closet in one of the opened the fire hydrant and released a stream of water into the street. The kids danced in the street happily as they were provided with some much-needed relief from the heat. It hadn't been touched since the shooting. Year ended. His t-shirt was 2 sizes too big and slightly yellow around the neck, but for the most part, it was clean. He wore a pair of tattered shorts that had once been jeans until his mother cut them off just above the knee. They had been handed down from his older brother, as all his clothes were. The only thing he wore that hadn't been pre-owned was a pair of white croquettes that his mother had brought him the day before from the discount store. He was supposed to be saving them for the first day of school that Monday, but he couldn't help himself. So even after being told numerous times not to wear them, he'd snuck outside in them anyway. In the neighborhood, Tayshawn was somewhat of an outcast. His mother and stepfather were notorious baseheads who spent more time chasing their demons than they did tending to the children. The neglect of his parents was apparent in Tayshawn's appearance and behavior. His clothes were always knockoffs or hand-me-downs, and he was lucky if his mother stayed sober long enough to do the laundry. Often, he would have to go to school wearing the same clothes for a week straight. This made him an easy target for the cruel kids. They always teased him about his appearance and poor hygiene, saying that he smelled like an animal. The teasing was so bad that Tayshawn had started cutting school just so he wouldn't have to deal with it. The school had sent countless letters to his house about his attendance, but his parents were too high to bother opening them. To Tayshawn's parents, he wasn't much more than a government check. The only person who seemed to care about him was his big brother, Justice. Justice was a problem child. He was constantly getting in trouble for petty crimes around the neighborhood, and most of the older people didn't stand him. They often whispered about how he was a bad thief and would end up dead or in prison, but that was only because they didn't understand. Justice was no angel. But crime had not been his first career choice. Justice was a good student, but when the drugs took hold of his mother and stepfather, he had to start making power moves. He dropped out of school and took it to the streets to become the man of his house and the protector of his little brother. Justice did what he could to hold it together, but at the end of the day, he was still a child himself, so there was only so much he could do. The brothers often lay awake, ignoring the growling of their stomachs, dreaming of the day when they would escape the hell they had been condemned to. "What are you reading?" A soft voice drew Tayshawn from the story he'd been so engrossed in. He looked up and was surprised to see that it was a young girl named Noki. Anokia, known as Noki to her friends, was the youngest daughter of the Japanese couple who owned the fish market on the avenue. Noki was the only one of her 5 siblings who had been born in the United States, and it showed in her walk, talk, and the way she dressed. She was rocking fatigue cutoffs and a white tank top, with white shell-toe Adidas and no socks. Her long black hair was in its usual style, neatly done fox braids. Tayshawn had had a crush on Noki since she had moved into the neighborhood, but had never had the courage to say anything. Tayshawn held up the tattered book cover so Noki could see it. Huckleberry Finn. Noki frowned. "Why are you reading that white people bullshit? You need to be reading Malcolm X." "You mean that guy who got killed a long time ago?" Tayshawn asked. He was familiar with the name, but didn't know much about him other than the little he picked up in social studies during Black History Month. "Malcolm was more than just some dude who got killed. He was an icon and a killed. He was an icon and a great leader of black people," Noki said passionately. "When white people had their feet on the necks of the downtrodden blacks, Malcolm stood up for them. He didn't buy into that submissive slave shit. His philosophy was that if black people wanted more as a people, then they had to demand it. They killed him for his beliefs." "Wow," was all Tayshawn could say after Noki's history lesson. Noki shook her head sadly. "How is it that I'm Japanese and I know more about the black experience than you?" Tayshawn just shrugged. "Did they teach you that in school?" "Nah, I learned it from my older brother. He's got tapes of all these black leaders hidden in a box under his bed. Sometimes I sneak them out and listen to them, and that's how I got turned on to people like Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, and Sammy Carson." "Why does he hide them if they're just tapes?" Tayshawn wanted to know. "Because my dad would kick his ass," Noki said seriously. "You have to understand, we come from a different culture, and my parents are old school in the faith. When they were growing up, the ideals of people like the Black Panthers could have gotten them branded traitors and executed. What my brothers and I call motivational, they call propaganda. That's why I love America so much, because I'm free to be whoever I want to be." She twirled one of her braids around her finger for emphasis. "What you doing over here talking to my girl?" A kid named Apple interrupted their conversation. He had been playing in the fire hydrant with the other kids until he saw Tayshawn and Noki talking. Apple was the local bully, and most of the kids were terrified of him. He was older than they were, and bigger, so he used fear to control the other kids in the neighborhood. You were either down with Apple's gang, or a victim of their antics. I'm not your girlfriend, Apple. And we weren't doing anything but talking. Loki told him. You are too my girlfriend. You just don't know it yet. And I don't want you talking to this dirty little nigga. Apple barked. What the fuck is that in your hand? He turned his attention to Tayshaun. Nothing. Tayshaun tucked the book behind his back. Don't look like nothing. Apple snatched the book from him. Water dripped from his thick jaw onto the pages of Tayshaun's book as he read the title, Huckleberry Finn. What kind of gay shit is this? It ain't gay. It's a story. Tayshaun reached for his book, but why don't you leave him alone? Loki yelled at him. Because I don't like niggas in my neighborhood reading gay shit. Apple laughed, running his hands through the pages, purposely wetting them. Give it back! Tayshaun demanded. I ain't done looking at it, Apple told him, as he turned and walked back toward the hydrant. Just forget about the book and let him have it, Loki suggested. She knew Apple was purposely trying to start trouble. I can't. It belongs to the library, and if I lose it, I won't be able to pay the fine, and they won't give me any more books. Tayshaun told her, as he got up and followed Apple. Stop playing and give me my book back, Apple. I don't want it to get wet. He could feel his heart quickening in anticipation of the confrontation he knew Apple was dragging him into. By now, the kids who had been playing in the water had stopped to watch the confrontation, so Apple wanted to make a good show of it. I forgot. You're afraid of water. That's why you smell like a monkey cage every day. The kids erupted into laughter. With each giggle, Tayshaun felt smaller and smaller. I think this book could use a bag. He inched toward the water. Don't! Tayshaun lunged for the book, but he was stopped when Apple grabbed him by the front of his shirt. Shut up, punk! Matter of fact,